20 meters. Right. Well, welcome everybody to the what is this? The June edition of the YCARS presentation meeting. We have a very special guest this evening. We've got Walt Hudson, K4GOG, who normally is in Norfolk, Virginia, but is in Rhode Island right now. And he has a YouTube channel that is very technical and very interesting. And it is Coastal Waves and Wires. So welcome, Walt. We're glad to have you. Thank you for agreeing to come and join us, please.
Thank you, John. And right off the bat, I love it because one thing that happens to me all the time, and especially the people that know my channel, I travel a lot and use a lot of different calls, but K4OGO. You said GOG. Everyone does that.
Did I do it? Did I do that? I'm sorry.
I love it. No, that's good. That could not have been a better. I'm actually thinking about doing a video where everyone's stumbling over my call. I don't know why, but that's and that
So
OGO has no significance. It was just available and I got it. So, yeah. But thanks, guys. Thanks for letting me come on and chat with you. If you're familiar with my channel, Coastal Waves and Wires, the channel started out as me just operating by salt water. Everything was salt water because make a long story short, about 3 years ago, I got in an argument on social media on Facebook. Imagine that, someone getting in an argument on Facebook. But I got in an argument with a guy. I was going to Kauai. I had to go over to Hawaii, Kauai, the farthest island out in Hawaii, to work. I was going to be out there for a few weeks. And I kind of, if you do know me, I have little sketches I do. I sketched up a vertical antenna and put it on this Facebook page and said I was going to build this vertical, and I was flying there. I was just taking a little 5-watt QRP radio with me, and I was going to play radio. Well, of course, any ham radio YouTube site, everybody and their brother was telling me everything that I was doing wrong. And we're going to talk about that too in a minute. That's kind of what I want the whole theme of this to be. But so I said, you know what? No, I know enough about RF and radio and with what's going on with ground planes and areas. I know enough about salt water that, because I've lived next to it my whole life and played radio by it my whole life, that this thing will just light it up. So I decided what I would do when I got to Kauai. I was going to start a YouTube channel and do a video. My first video would be me doing this activation. So I went out, I built the antenna. It was a QRP guy's tri-bander, put that up and made contacts with 5 watts. Actually, I made one to New Zealand, and you would think in the Pacific, New Zealand, Hawaii, they're not close to each other at all. I think it's like 8,000 or 9,000 miles. It's a long QSO, but so I edited it, put the video together, put it up, get back to the States, and just blasted that Facebook page with the video. And believe it or not, it caused a stir, and then people to me it was viral. All of a sudden, I had 300 or 400 views on my very first ever YouTube video. And while I was over there too, I also I'm a medium wave AM broadcast DXer. I did some DXing and listened to Japan and Tonga, and to me that was the better video. But put those together, and then I just discovered that, okay, I'm onto something, that people wanted to see that, and I got a lot of hate in the comments. I got a lot of positive stuff, and I'm like, you know what? I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, right by the ocean. My wife and I go to the Outer Banks every other weekend. It's an hour drive down from us. So I'm going to start experimenting and building different antennas and doing videos about it. And that's kind of what I wanted to do. Talk about tonight is avoiding perfection. Just stop. The one thing I get in my just about all my videos, a comment or two, and a lot of these guys I just delete, block, or whatever. But just pure, just all over me, because I'm not building a perfect antenna. And I think that we as ham radio operators, or we say it, amateurs, that's part of the learning process, is getting out and trying and doing different things. Every time I do something with, say, like I built the Ribicoff antenna. If you're not familiar with that, it's 25-foot driven element with a 4-to-1 unun and a ground plane underneath it. Well, everybody's like, well, yeah, but you need to build resonant antennas. Well, not necessarily. Experimenting with that antenna, and using an antenna tuner or a rig with a tuner in it, I made some amazing contacts. I've done some long path from I was over in Europe working, I did long path 20-watt QSOs to New Zealand and Australia with, with this antenna. So it's I can't. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about is, especially if anyone's watching this and you're a newer ham. Yes, we need Elmers. Yes, we need people to teach us, and we need to learn. But don't be afraid to experiment, and don't be afraid to tell people that you're experimenting. I did it, and look at me. I did it, 3 years ago with one video talking about, hey, I'm going to do this. It's not conventional, but what I'm going to do. And now I've got 20,000 people, subscribe to my YouTube channel and watch it, and it just took off. So, go do things, and that's kind of the whole spirit of my channel. And if you follow me or if you've seen any of my stuff, I've built some crazy antennas. I've done some that were failures. And matter of fact, week before last or last week, I found this abandoned tower, and I hooked a wire to it and tuned it. I got great SWR, whatever. I made like 0 contacts, but I put myself out there and I do things like that. And I really feel like that one of the, people do they call it the sad ham videos or talk about it or whatever. I think one of the things growing this hobby is we all need to understand that we are amateurs and we're learning. I mean, although we all try to be, and learn as much about RF engineering and radio and as we can, but just experiment and try different things. That's really what I try to do with my channel and with what I do. And I've had some amazing experiences by just trying stuff. And I think I've learned more from trying stuff than reading the ARRL antenna books and all the stuff that I've done, watching other videos or whatever. I like to do things. In my career world, I'm a field engineer, so I work in shipbuilding. It's why I'm up in Rhode Island right now, working on a contract up here at a shipyard. But I'm a field engineer, so what I do is I'm in the office with the theory guys and the theoretical guys as we start a project and we're designing a ship. And after this thing is pretty much designed and the construction drawings are done and it's maturing, I leave the fold and go out with the drawings and go out on site as they're building. And I'm the field engineer, and I'm talking from the theoretical guys that, for lack of a better term, think they know everything, to the guys down here hammering steel and welding or whatever that, in my opinion, really do know everything. They're master craftsmen, they're shipbuilders, and they understand it. And I'm the go-between. And I try to carry that over into my channel, my YouTube channel, and my hobby, ham radio, is, I'll study something. I look into an antenna or propagation. I'm sorry, and the effects of radio or whatever. I just study the theory part. But when I put my videos out, I try to put them as if I'm talking to, I don't want to say a newbie or a new person or whatever, but more of a layman type. I mean, I'm a structural engineer by trade, not an electrical engineer. I mean, I know just enough physics to be dangerous, but I try to carry that part of me in my career over to what I'm doing in my YouTube channel. And I'm not the YouTuber that's opening boxes and showing new radios and trying to get you to buy the latest radio or whatever. I'm just me going out and experimenting. And actually, by doing it and having a channel, I try to put a video, maybe 2 a week out. I sometimes go a week or 2 without doing one just because I'm not inspired. I have nothing to do it about, and I'm not chasing the circle of the algorithm. This channel is just for me to enjoy myself and have fun. And and I want to build a body of work that when I'm very, very old, or maybe when I'm gone, my grandchildren might want to get into ham radio and they can look back at Pops and go, wow, Pops did some really cool stuff. I want to do that too, and try to inspire people. So that's who I am, and that's what my channel's about. And that's kind of the, I don't call myself a preacher or a ham radio evangelist or whatever, but I try to get that out to people. I really do, because I really want to inspire people to experiment, build antennas. And if I'm an SSB guy, I'm trying, and I've played around with CW a little bit. I'm not a digital guy, but there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever it is, this hobby, I should say, is like, there's so many things to do in it that find your niche, get out and do it, and just experiment and have fun. So that's who I am, and what I try to preach, and that's what my channel is all about. So, if you guys want to fire any questions at me, have at it.
Hi, Walt. It's John. I guess, you've done so many antennas recently, and I've noticed that, especially after the Rybakoff antenna, there have been a rash of videos about the Rybakoff antenna, and actually some people producing it. What did you find that was different and worked so well with that antenna versus some of the other stuff you built?
I really thought that if you look at, and I think I've discussed this, but if you look at the length, I mean, it's a random wire length. It's not resonant on any, 10 through 40. It's not resonant. But if you look at the length, like what it is, what is it? Probably close to being a 5/8 wave vertical on the 10-meter band. It's, half getting close now, just below, in between, somewhere near a half wave, around between 15 and 17. The actual and I tell you, when I first discovered this antenna years ago, and I did a video on it, I could only find one video on it at that time, and that was Tim G5TM in the UK. And Tim and I contacted him, and we actually over that antenna have built an amazing friendship. And we go back and forth about antennas, or whatever. But and he put out some good stuff on it. But what I found about that antenna is, for a multiband antenna, for my situation, a lot of people are like, hey, I live in Colorado and I'm going to build a Ribicoff, and I'm like, it's probably not. It's called the Ribicoff for a reason. Ribicoff means fisherman. You know what I mean? And it's it's a where a vertical antenna is used. It's a great, somewhat compromised. I mean, we all say all antennas are compromised, but the Ribicoff antenna is just, I don't want to say it's magic or whatever, but I think that 7.6 meter, or 25-foot length is just something about it. It's got a really good, what are we going to call it, footprint or whatever, is radiation, way it does. For the bands we use it on, it lights up 20 meters for me. I've made some amazing contacts with it. So yeah, I love that antenna. It's funny, you say that, and I don't want to sound, it's kind of funny how popular that antenna got after Tim and myself did a couple videos on it, and then all of a sudden everybody started building it. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's because I put my video out, but I'm a little flattered.
Yeah, well, you should be. I had never heard of the antenna before till I saw you do it, and then all of a sudden it was like this channel, this channel, this channel, this channel. Now I've played around with the antenna, and I've used everything from was it 40 some odd foot length of wire for the radiator up to a 87-foot length of wire for the radiator. And when you get up to 87 feet on that thing, it starts to sing on the low bands too,
Yeah.
much like it does on 20. So just another experiment to put in the back of your head.
Yeah, it is. I need to that's one thing I lack, is getting in the lower bands. I like to say I'm a DXer, and for me, DX is 15 to 10, you know what I mean? That's kind of, or 20, I should say, 20 to 10. Got some flying around. And so I kind of, those are the bands I live on. But recently, this year, I've kind of fallen in love with the 60-meter band at home. I kind of got some guys I talk to there and play around. So I need to start looking my antenna builds a little bit more for like 40, 60, 80 in that direction. Or who knows, maybe even what I probably should do is go back to that tower I tried to light off and do some top band up there, and then see how that works.
Yeah, if you get the load, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Anybody else have questions for Walt?
Yeah, Walt. I love the enthusiasm about experimenting. I mean, that is what our hobby is all about. One of my favorite sayings is, I'm glad they didn't tell me it wouldn't work, because
Right.
and in that train of thought, is there an antenna that you experimented with that you thought wouldn't work, but was surprised that it did work?
Yeah, it's funny. That's as an antenna that I called an idea I had. I called it the Coastal 20, and I put it together because at the time I needed an antenna, going out by saltwater, and everybody knows the saltwater, the ground plane, all the magic, and all the great things about operating by saltwater. But the beaches are crowded in the summer, and you're not going to go out there and get a prime spot and stick wires in the water without people coming by and saying, what the heck are you doing? Get out of here, whatever. So I thought to myself, I want an antenna that's kind of like, it'll fit on a 10-meter pole, like a DX Commander pole, and I can get all the way at the back of the beach, away from everybody, up on a little hill dune or whatever, and operate. So I came up with the idea of a 17.5-foot driven element, and then another like 1 meter or 3 foot long wire under it, almost like an off center fed vertical dipole, but shortened and small. And I first experimented with it. I didn't model it or anything. I just threw it together. It was an idea. I used a 9-to-1. It was doing okay. I mean, SWR, I could still get my tuner to use it. And then I came back and said, something's got to happen here. And I put a 4-to-1 on it. And then all of a sudden, SWR was a lot better. I've been making great contacts with it. And I honestly, when I first came up with that idea of that antenna, I was like, this is not going to work, but you know what? I'll give it a try. And yeah, it did. And it's funny. I've had people that have actually modeled it and sent me models of it and said, hey, like, are you sure you didn't like, model this first or whatever? I said, no, it's just an idea I had, and I went out and tried it. So yeah, that's the one that coastal 20, as I call it, is basically a 20-foot, a little over 20-foot. It would actually be 20 foot 6 inches overall. But that antenna that I kind of thought up and threw together, that's the one that I'm kind of proud that it worked, honestly. But when I first was doing it, I was like, this is probably going to be a disaster. But it did well.
That's awesome.
Anybody else fire away, guys? I'm good.
Anybody else have any questions? Wait a minute.
Hey, Walt, it's Ron Thompson, K4RRT. Not a question, but more just a statement about your channel, how much I really appreciate it. The fact that you're taking the simple wire, the simple speaker wire, and showing us how to make an antenna out of that. Your channel, I appreciate your channel, because with you, what I feel like what we see is what we get. You're not out there trying to entertain us. You're out there trying to teach us something. You're showing us how to take a little piece of wire, throw it up on a fiberglass pole, run a wire out into the water, and talk the world.
Well, thank you.
And I just really appreciate it. I think I found you about a year and a half or so ago, and I really appreciate you being there.
Hey, I appreciate that so much. And I want to say that I think one of my biggest faults is and I'm glad that I get to talk to you. Sometimes I get a comment like that on my channel. I miss them, and that's the one thing I think I lack as a YouTuber is being able to thank people that enjoy the channel. So it's good. Thank you so much for saying that. It's good to hear it. I just try to be me. I just want to be me. I don't want to be. I'm not. Yeah, I would be lying if I wasn't sitting here saying I'd like to have 100,000 subscribers, whatever. Yeah, that's every YouTuber. But I'm really not. I'm not in this game to chase the algorithm. I'm definitely not going to make money, get rich doing YouTube for ham radio. That's why it kind of cracks me up with some of the guys that are they're chasing the I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber with ham radio. Like, you probably should have picked another topic, because so that's why I kind of like keep my channel. I was saying earlier, I want to be able to look back at a body of work one day when I'm old and I'm not doing this anymore, and be proud of it. And I don't want it to be, what the Amazon ham radio deal of the day was. You know what I mean? I want it to be just me slapping a wire on a fiberglass pole, like you said, and having fun. And that's what I'm trying to do. So thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Anybody else have any questions? I see Dave, you've unmuted. Or maybe not. Hey, Walt, I'd really like to know, when you go out in the field, are you taking, SWR meter like a, Rig Expert stick, or are you using a Nano VNA? What do you use out in the field to test stuff? Or are you just putting it up and see if it works?
That's the beauty. I tell you what's happened to me. That's the beauty of Zygu radios, is they have such great analyzation tools inside of them. Well, let's just say, I'll be honest with you. When I went out in the field with my, I had a Yaesu FT891 for a while. I took my Zygu X5105 with me and just used it as an antenna analyzer, because it's got such great antenna analyzing tools right in it that it's, to me, I thought about I almost bought a Rig Expert because it looks like an amazing tool. Almost bought one in Dayton, but I didn't, because I looked at it and it's like, well, I want to spend a couple $100. This is just going to do what my little X5105 already does for me. I mean, no, I'm not going to have a Smith chart on it or none of that, but at least I could just check SWR. And that, when you're on the field and you're just throwing something up and you're ready to get on the air, it's really, people say, hey, you really should model that antenna and show us the model and all that. It's like, that's great. That's what Smoking 8 does. That's not what Coastal Waves and Wires does. I just build antennas and check the SWR and fire it off and see if it works. So I do have a nano VNA. I have used it a little bit, just playing around with it. But yeah, I just for checking SWR, my Zygo radios. That's why I love them so much. Everything's built into them. That's the beauty of those little Shack in the Box radios.
Yeah, absolutely. I carry a Rig Expert stick, and I've got a Nano VNA, but the Nano VNA I really don't take out in the field too much. I don't know. I'm afraid of losing or breaking it or whatever.
The little caps on it and all that stuff. I worry about losing it too. I kind of kick myself. I probably should have bought that Rig Expert, and I probably will eventually. Especially, I mean, I'm not going to use the Zygo G90 forever. You know what I mean? I want to play with other radios, and as much as I would play with other antennas, I've had fun. I had a FX4CR radio for a little while and used it, and that was 20 watts. Enjoyed it. Matter of fact, the last trip I made to Poland, if you guys are familiar with my channel, for 2 years I was contract engineering over in Poland, and I would go to Poland for 2 months, come back to the States for a month, and then go back to Poland for 2 months. I was on an off-on rotation. So it was cool. It was just long enough that I could reset my CEPT agreement and operate as Sierra Papa stroke Kilo 4 Oscar Golf Oscar. But the last trip over there, which was last summer, I took just that one radio, that FX4CR, to force me to get away from the G90 and all the wonderful ATU tools or whatever, and used it. So for me to use other radios like that, I know eventually I've got to get a good, like a Rig Expert or something, a good field tool. The Nano VNA is great, but it ain't a great field tool. I would, especially where I'm at, I know it wouldn't take 2 or 3 activations and it would hit the wet sand and be done.
Yeah, the screen's too small for my eyes. I need a computer screen if I'm using it. But
yeah.
Let's have a question.
I got one.
Sure.
So when I go to the beach, I still come home with sand. That stuff is like glitter. How do you keep it out of your gear? And do you do anything for sand management?
Yeah, that's a good question. What I do is I go down to the beach. I use the big giant, you go to Lowe's or Home Depot, the big blue buckets, the big one they have, the contractor buckets. I put everything in that and set it down so it's protected from the sand that way. Get my antenna stuff out, set it in the chair, build the antenna, pull the radio and the battery out of it, set it in the chair, flip the bucket over, set it on the top, and operate. The first thing I do when I'm done, disconnect that, set the radio back in there, bang the bucket, blow it off, make sure there's no sand on it, set the radio back in the bucket, and then take everything else apart. I will be honest with you, windy days or whatever, right now you could probably, I wish I had it here, I would show you the face of my Zygo G90, and I could probably take a needle or something and dig sand out of it. And that's another reason why when I go out on the beach, everyone goes, why don't you use that FT891 or whatever? I'm like, I don't really feel comfortable taking an $800 to $900 radio into the situations I go in. If my Zygo G90 got hit by a rogue wave and washed away tomorrow, I'd take $399 and just buy another one next week. That's kind of how I look at it. I do my saltwater stuff with cheaper, inexpensive radios. I know a lot of people are like, well, I won't use Chinese. I was like, well, I bet if you popped the lid off of that Yaesu and looked at all the circuitry in it, you're going to see a whole lot of China in it. But, that's just kind of how I am with mine. I just try to be very careful. I will tell you this. I had a true USDX. It floats. It floats. I was sitting too close and the waves just came out. I was like, oh no. It just rolled right up over me. And I had it like on that bucket. The bucket fell over and it just floated away. Took it home, put it in rice, and used it the very next week, and it worked fine. But that's the worst thing that's ever happened to me. And I bet I've operated on the beach at least 100 times portable in the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, you got to watch it. Just got to be careful. And you got to also know, I know in the back of my mind, sooner or later, my old hand's going to slip and I'm going to drop it. It's going to hit the water. Something's going to happen. I think the worst thing that close to that happened to me one time, I lived down the city I live in, we have a seawall right there. I live in Portsmouth, Virginia. We look across the river at Norfolk, Virginia, and that's where the downtown buildings, whatever. And I had I think it was my 7-meter DX Commander pole up in a surf rod holder, and it was one of the surf rod holders that has the metal on it, long metal spike, and then the top of it is the white plastic part. And all of a sudden, I'm looking at it as I'm talking, and I'm watching it bend and break in half. And I'm watching my 7-meter DX Commander pole getting ready to go for a dive that I will never grab it again. And I just jumped up, and I mean, thankfully the coax and everything had taped to it, kind of held it to, and I grabbed it and pulled it back and saved my 7-meter DX Commander pole. But yeah, I know sooner or later things are going to happen. That's why I try to, from a budget standpoint, have stuff that I know I'm not going to mourn, but so much if the elements take it.
Gotcha. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I got one. So I'm also a Zygo enthusiast. I've got several of their boxes, and honestly, for the money, I couldn't be happier with them. Got a Yaesu 891 I use a lot as well. But I've got the beer budget champagne taste, so I end up with the Zygo stuff. Have you ever run any problems with using I've got the G90 and the 6100, which I love both of them equally well. Do you find that there's any time, have you run into any significant problems with them? I find that, for example, I read about the bane of Zygo is firmware updates, so I have never updated the firmware in my radios. Have you had any experiences like that? Did you find that the firmware upgrades are dangerous or anything like that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll tell you why. I have never, ever done a firmware update. I'm an SSB guy. I operate SSB. It works. The radio works great. Why would I, I'm not getting anything out of the firmware like everything in it. I've never done it. I've heard, like you, I've heard the same thing. The firmware updates is the dangerous part. Don't do it. My Zygo G90 is 3.5, 4 years. It's old. I've had it for a long time, and it's still the same firmware in it. The day I got it from Radiata and pulled it out of the box, I have never done a firmware update. I have the X5105. I have the XPA 125B amplifier. I had the X6100. I'm glad you like it. I didn't. I hate to say it. I just didn't like this. I don't like the fact that I have to hook an external battery up to it to get 10 watts. That bothered me. I mean, I wanted that radio. And when Zygo said they were coming out with the 6200, I was just praying that it would at least be 10 watts on the internal battery, and it wasn't, and that bothered me. I mean, it's a beautiful radio. I love the screen of the X6100. The things I didn't like about it was I had to hook an external speaker up for me, unless I wore headphones. Me doing a YouTube channel and experimenting, I had to hook an external speaker up to it and an external battery up to it. I'm like, for 10 watts, I'll just use the G90. The only difference there, the G90 was the smaller screen. But that was the only. I hate to say anything bad about Zygo because I'm such a Zygo guy. But yeah, I was a little. I don't know, for just my personal use, I wasn't as impressed with the X6100 as I thought I would be. What's funny, I have contacted Radiodity. This, I'll tell you guys the truth. Everybody, I said earlier, I don't chase this to get free stuff, whatever. I've contacted Radiodity 3 times now, and the last time I went through, took days and went through all the comments on my videos and clipped them and put them all together. And I had over 100 comments of 100 different people said that I purchased my Zygo G90 because I saw you use it. And I sent all this to Zygo, and I'm still crickets. I'm not Zygo Radiodity. I'm still crickets. I just told them, hey, I knew this 6200 was coming out. I was like, hey guys, if you want somebody to do a test platform on it, try this out. Here, look how many of your radios I've sold just by using it. You've never given me anything. Why don't you let me give me one of the betas ones or whatever? Well, then I'll look around at who got the betas, and little old Coastal Ways and Wires didn't get one. So I get a little frustrated with Radiodity / Zygo on that. But overall, though, like you, I'm a lover, especially the G90. I love that amp. I actually love my X5105. I don't, once again, like the 6100. I don't like the sound. I have to hook an external speaker up to it for when I'm out portable with it. But yeah, and I kind of sorry that maybe I bashed the X6100. If you are a QRP guy and that's really what you want, a 5-watt radio, for 5-watt QRP, it is a superior radio. It really is. It's just not what I am. I'm kind of pushing the 10. I'm a voice guy too. I'm pushing the 10 and up on power, 10 to 20 watts. But yep, yeah, I'm with you, brother. I'm a Zygu guy.
Good deal. I had a follow up, but I don't want to. Thank you
Go
for your
ahead.
answer. But I was just curious about the. I've run into a problem running that particular amp mobile. If I have a stable power supply, it seems to work really, really, really well. But if I'm running it off like a battery where the voltage varies as I'm transmitting, I get some weird artifacts SWR wise. I think that I have logically I've deduced that the ATU starts to goof up because when the voltage coming to it is not stable. Have you run into that? I ask everybody who's ever used one of these amps if they've seen that problem.
I have. I'll tell you the experience I had. I was on this is way back. I went up to the top of a parking garage in Virginia Beach. Can't remember what video it was, but I had it with my I think I had this G90, whatever. I had it all set up, but I had a really short piece. I had like a mag mount or something and a really short piece of coax, running from, the mag mounts themselves don't have a long, maybe it's 15 feet of coax or whatever. And same problem. And I kept getting that reverse power warning. I don't know if you've gotten that. And I would tune it and do everything. And I think I was using I think it was a 17-foot telescopic whip. And I even tried to tune it and did it. And when I put the 100 watts on it with that amp, it's because I had so much common mode coming back on that little short piece of coax. I know that's what it was, but I was getting the reverse power warning mobile. You know what I mean? And I think it was because my first impression was the short coax, and I didn't have a choke at the time or any of that. I was just running a straight piece, the straight mag mount right into the amp and then over. But yeah, I've had that exact same problem. And I only now, that was the one time I took it out. Now I only use it at home, and at home my coax run. The antenna I use, I'm in a very compromised situation. It's just a multi-band vertical, and I have like 75 feet of coax running to it, and I've never had an issue with it there, but definitely mobile.
Yeah, roger that. Thank you.
Yes, anytime.
All right. We have anybody else ask questions?
Just a comment. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Dave.
Okay. Yeah. You think an IT guy would know how to use Zoom, but apparently not. But anyway, just two things. You talk about the spirit of your channel, and one of the things I've loved in following your channel is that you show your failures as well as your successes. There's so many channels that all they ever do is, show everything working perfectly. And, as somebody who's very new into ham radio and, experimenting and failing more times than I succeed, it's really great to see you do that, and then, a week later you have a follow-up video and you figured out the problem and you made it work. And it's really good. I really enjoy that. So I wanted to say that first. And then secondly, the video you did recently with your wife where she was making her activations, that was such a great video. I loved just the expression of surprise and excitement on her face every time she made a contact and she heard where they were from. That was just such a great thing. So I appreciate you sharing that with everybody.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna, when you guys post this, I'm gonna let her come see this. She was so excited about that, and I appreciate the kind words. I really do. My wife is an amazing girl. I've been married for almost 40 years, and she's put up with my radio nerdness for 40 years. When we first got married, I was heavily into shortwave listening, and so this is the early 80s, and 22-year-old girls that want to like sit at home at night while I turn the knob listening to Radio Prague and radio and the BBC or whatever. But she got into it with me, and then she, to this day, by our bedside, we have a radio and put a sleeper on it, and we go to bed every night listening to some distant station or whatever. So she never really wanted to get her ham license. She's been with me on other activations, and we were camping. And I said, listen, you're gonna make a contact. And she said, I'm scared. So if you watched, I did a little cheat sheet for her, and she did it. So afterwards, she goes, I want to do that some more. I go, well, let's start thinking about getting you your license. She goes, no, I want to be Mrs. K4OGO. I like that part of it the best. I'm like, okay, well then that's what you'll do. Then you can just I'll be the control operator, and you can play radio and have fun. And I had a lot of comments on it where people were saying, I'm trying to get my wife to get her license, and I'm trying to explain to them, well, if you're always going to be with her operating and you're an extra, like I'm an extra, or you're a general, whatever, just let her enjoy you. Be the control operator and let her enjoy it with you. You guys both be you, your call. So that's what she wants to do. And I'm up in Rhode Island right now working. She's back in Virginia, and I'll be going back and forth. Matter of fact, I'm flying back next week. But yeah, she'll be in future videos playing radio with me again for sure, because she had a blast.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Walt, little tip for you. When somebody asks you how long you've been married,
Yeah.
the correct answer, always the correct answer, not nearly long enough.
I did. I'm married up. That's what I tell people.
Absolutely.
I did. I
I'm
married
way above my weight class.
I'm a girl too, guys. I married a girl from the Charleston area. So, or she grew up there and then came up to Virginia, where I was at, and went to high school up there. But her dad is from Charleston. So, and all her family, for every Christmas and New Year since we've been married now for almost 40 years, we go somewhere over the holidays. We come down and spend 2 or 3 days in Hanahan, the Hanahan area there of North Charleston, and so I know that area well, and I love South Carolina.
Cool. Well, when you're here, make sure you stop in Rock Hill and come by the clubhouse. We'd love to have you there in person.
I'd love to do that. That would be awesome. I'll drive right through it, so we definitely can make that happen.
Yeah. Any other questions for Mr. Walt?
Hey, Walt, real quick, let's connect and talk offline sometime.
Sure. The easiest way to connect to me, my email is so overwhelmed, is bad, is if you go to, if you're on Facebook, if you go like my Coastal Waves and Wires channel and then hit me in Facebook messengers, those pop up quick and I see them. And then you connect with me, and then I'll give you my cell number, and you can, or John's got my cell, I think, or whatever. You can text me that way too. I am absolutely overwhelmed right now. I've been in Rhode Island for 2.5 weeks. If you look at my last 3 or 4 videos, I haven't replied to people. I feel so bad, but I'm working 11, 12 hours a day. And what little window of time I'm not working, I'm trying to go play radio and keep the channel going a little bit. But yeah, if you do that, if you just like that page, or if you're not a Facebook guy, so there's other ways. You can go on X and find me. I'm Salty Walt, K4OGO there, and then hit me in the messengers of those social medias. It's a lot easier than commenting or trying to get to me through email or YouTube, because those two right now, those avenues, and I cannot explain. And I'm really not that big of a YouTuber. I'm coming up on 20,000 subscribers. Every video I bet I get anywhere from 30 to 40 emails, and then 100 comments. And I just don't right now. Like I said, I feel terrible, but I don't have time to connect that way. So definitely, you're going to get in touch with me if you don't mind. That would be the easiest way to do it. I'd love to connect with you for sure.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Anybody else have anything?
Guys, this has been great. I like to kind of just not have just say who I am and what I am and talk about it, because that's really the spirit of the channel and what I am. And I appreciate your time tonight as well. Thanks for letting me come on and meeting you guys. And yeah, I would love to come. Maybe I'd swing through Rock Hill sometime and say hi. That would be great. But I really do. This to me, it's an honor. I'm just thank you. I'm humbled to be here. Thank you.
The honor is ours to have you, Walt. I mean, to have some of your time. I know you're super busy, and it was a great presentation. Enjoyed hearing your take on the channel and on YouTube and all the antennas you build, and just, again, keep doing what you're doing. And you got a lot of fans down here in South Carolina, and we'll keep plugging that channel for you, brother.
Thank you so much. And if anybody's going, I pretty sure I'm going to Hamcation this year. I've never been to Orlando. I don't know if anybody's going, but let me know. Find that what I was saying, find me on that social media platform. One mistake I made in Dayton is I didn't have a time and a place, and people were like, I went there just to come meet you, and I missed you. I didn't see you. I think when I get to Hamcation, I'm gonna have 2:00 Saturday afternoon at Station X or whatever, and then get to meet everybody and put face to face some of the people that I've seen in comments, whatever. So if any of you guys are going down to Orlando, please come grab me. Maybe we'll have a an ice cold beverage or something after.
Well, that's easy to do. We can arrange
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there you go.
Cool. Well, thanks again, Walt, and thank
Thank
you
you so
everybody for attending tonight. And this will be recorded and uploaded to the YouTube channel next couple days. So with that, everybody have a good night. 73 and best from Pennsylvania tonight. 7-3.
73 guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Walt. Appreciate it.
Thank you.